Hi, my name is Behan. In this video, I will be sharing with you how to set up Virtualbox on Windows 10. We will be using Virtualbox to install Ubuntu server, and afterwards we will configure SSH ports on Ubuntu, and we will be configuring virtual machine firewall for ports to use SSH, and we will do the virtual machine port forwarding settings to reach SSH on Ubuntu. Then we will be using Putty SSH Client on Windows to reach Ubuntu SSH server to manage our server. And then we will be installing Sftp on Ubuntu, and we will be doing again virtual machine port settings and Ubuntu port settings on firewall as well. Afterwards, we will be connecting Sftp on Ubuntu on virtual machine from Windows by using Filezilla. Okay, let's start with installing Virtualbox. To install Virtualbox, we need to go Oracle Virtualbox download. I won't be using the latest build because it has some issues. Previously I updated my old one and then I had some issues, so I reverted back. We will be installing 6.1.26 for Windows. Let's install Virtualbox. I want to install it on my D drive because I have more space there. Virtualbox is installed and the image file is downloaded, so now we are ready to install Ubuntu on Virtualbox. First, we will create a new virtual machine and we will change the settings and we will start installing Ubuntu. Click New. I will give the name Ubuntu and you can choose location where the files will be stored. And for memory, you can choose as much as you want. I will be using default settings, and the disk space will be initial disk space is 20 gigabytes because I have chosen dynamically allocated in the previous screen. If I need more space, it will spare some more space if it is available on my D drive. Okay, now we have our virtual machine, but nothing is installed, no image files on the CD-ROM. So to install Ubuntu, we need to go to the storage, we need to go to the CD-ROM file, optical drive. Then I will choose the disk file because we have downloaded the image file here, disk image. I have chosen. Before I click OK, let me show you a few things here. The settings we have given Ubuntu and the operating system we have selected here for Linux. The location of the snapshot, if we take any. System information, what's available, what is not. Then display information, storage, audio. You'll be able to hear the sounds that comes from Ubuntu from Windows as well. Network, we'll be doing a bit of port forwarding here because we want to use Sftp SSH, and if we set up any other server, if you want to use them from our host machine from Windows, then we need to do some port forwarding here. And other things such as shared folders. By using shared folders, you can actually share a folder on your Windows machine and you can read and write to this folder from Ubuntu as well. So that setting seems fine, and we will continue. We will just start it. Okay, there's a new window here. Our virtual machine started, and this is the screen that we see from the Ubuntu setup. a sound came, so I think it was checked for the sound card. And we will continue installation with keyboard layout check. First we will choose language. I will use English, install Ubuntu. I will choose keyboard layout. I will click detect. Okay, so let's press N, U, okay, W, Z, yes. It found it correctly. Let's check it if everything works fine. Correct. Continue. I want to do minimal installation. If you want to experiment Ubuntu, then you can do normal installation, and I don't want to download updates while installing Ubuntu. I can do it later. If you won't be installing that on a virtual machine, obviously you will need to click this one because it will be downloading drivers for graphics and Wi-Fi hardware. But in our case, I want to just create a minimal Ubuntu installation. Later I will be installing SSH, Sftp and Postgresql on top of that, and the .NET Core. So I just need minimal installation. I click erase disk. That's the default option. Install now. Continue. And time zone selection, so I will just click here, continue, and I think I will just write here Ubuntu, and the computer name can be Ubuntu VM virtual machine, and username can be Ubuntu. I will give the same password since we are just experimenting. So I have given the name, username Ubuntu, computer name Ubuntu VM, and I have given the password Ubuntu, same as this one, small letters. Now installation has started. It will take some time. Installation of Ubuntu is completed. Now we will restart our virtual machine. And Ubuntu is ready to log on. Remember, we have given the same password. So username is Ubuntu, password is Ubuntu. Just show you here. Enter. The next step will be we need to configure SSH, and we will be trying to log on Ubuntu on virtual machine from Windows by using Putty Client. So if I open Firefox, now I will have internet connection because I have internet connection on Windows. There are some updates. It's asked me if I want to update. Not now. There might be later. Mostly I will be using terminal screen from Putty. So actually I don't need graphical interface. But sometimes it helps if you want to edit some files. It is much easier to do it on graphical interface rather than doing it on terminal screen. Okay, now we have it here. Ubuntu installation is completed. Now we are ready to install our servers and use it from Windows. If you want, you can install guest editions. They are quite useful. You can do copy paste from Windows to Ubuntu by using the same clipboard. So I will close it. Say run for guest editions. Tabs. To install guest editions, I am entering my password. Okay, guest editions are installed. We just need to restart our system. And we can remove it. Then we can restart our Ubuntu. We log on again. Password was Ubuntu. So Ubuntu is ready with minimal options. We don't have any server installed on it yet. It is fresh. So what I want to do is, before I continue, I want to take a snapshot of current state, because we will do a few installations and we will do a few changes on settings. This may affect our server, and we may prefer to revert it back to the fresh installation. So in every imported milestone, I will be taking snapshots. Let's take the first one. I go to here, take snapshot 1, that is Ubuntu installed. And I will be writing username and password here. Ubuntu. Ubuntu. Done. So we can do any kind of change we want. If you make any mistake, then we can simply say, like, we can come here and say restore. And to show that, I will just open it. To show what restore does, I will open Firefox, and then I will close the virtual machine by saving current state. Then I will restore and restart it, and you will see we will be going back to the snapshot time, and there won't be any Firefox open. So now Firefox is open, I close it, I say save mission state. Our virtual machine is closed, and now I will click restore. It says, shall I create a snapshot for current mission state? I don't want it. I just want to erase all the chains. I say restore, and it's gone, and I open it again. And that's it. We are back to snapshot time. Now we will continue with SSH setup and firewall configuration on Ubuntu. Then we will be doing some port forwarding on Virtualbox, and then we will connect SSH server on Ubuntu from Putty Client from Windows. We have restarted our computer. We have restarted our virtual machine, and we are ready to install SSHD, which is SSH server. But first I will be changing display resolution. and change resolution. Now we will open a new terminal window. To install SSH, we will be using OpenSSH server to run SSH. So first we need to update our packets, list of packets. So packets are listed. The package list is updated now. Now we will upgrade them. Press Y and enter to continue upgrade. So upgrade takes some time and it has been completed now. Now we can continue with SSHD installation. So we will be installing OpenSSH server. And click Y and enter. Installation completed. Let's check if it is running. And if it is active and running, press Ctrl C and enter. It will end. It's still running at the background, so it's fine. And you can see it is running on the port 22. Now what we need to do is we need to configure our firewall first. Then afterwards you need to configure our Virtualbox port forwardings. And to configure firewall is quite easy. What you need to do is you just use UFV command. First we need to enable SSH ports on UFV, which means uncomplicated firewall for Linux. So we run sudo UFV hello SSH. Rules are updated. Now we can enable all the chains. Okay. Firewall is active, and let's check the status. As you can see, 22 port is enabled. Now we need to do Virtualbox configuration, and for that we are going to settings of our virtual machine, and then we go to network, advanced, and port forwarding. Now we will add new lines here. First of all, we need to know what is our IP on the Ubuntu. So if I run ifconfig to learn my IP, so my IP address is here 10.02.15. I need to do configuration for that. So I will give a name for this rule. I will say SSH. It will be on TCP IP protocol. First, I write my host IP address. 127.0.0.1 is a special address. Each machine has this address. It is nothing to do with network. It is like local address, same as local host. So you can write, it's safe to write it here. And I will be forwarding port 22 to guests, and it will be 10.02.15 and port 22. Done. Now we need to download the client to connect to Ubuntu from Windows. Okay, to connect to SSH on Ubuntu, we need to download an SSH client, and I am using Putty for Windows. I go here. and I will just click this one. It's already downloaded, and I will click to open it. I will add my local machine here. Remember, we have added port forwarding, so it's safe to edit here. And I will say Ubuntu. Save. Accept. And I want to log in as Ubuntu. Remember, we gave the password Ubuntu as well. And we are connected. Now we are on Ubuntu machine, on virtual machine. As you can see here, Ubuntu user is logged on Ubuntu virtual machine. We will be installing Sftp on Ubuntu, but before we do that, let's take another snapshot. That will be snapshot 2, and we will be write SSH installed port forwarding is done for UFV and Virtualbox port 22. Now we are ready to install Sftp, so we will look for a tutorial for that. This first one is quite good, so I will follow this one. Okay, let's follow directives on the web page. So it says install Open SSH server, but we have already installed. So if you want to install it again, it will warn us. See, it's already the newest one. So we will be running the next command. Okay, and the next one is creating new user to system. And it is asking for a password from us, and I will give the same, sftp underscore user, sftp underscore user. Yes. Okay, that has been completed, and let's check the next commands. Okay, we need to create folders, and we need to assign permissions to these folders. Again, we follow the screen directives. And we will set the owner of the new folder. This part is important because we don't want to give too much permission to the Sftp user. That will be dangerous. And we are setting permissions. Done. And the next commands. We are changing the owner of folder, data folder, but the rest of the folders belongs to root, so Sftp user cannot reach more than data folder. That has been done too. Now we will check for SHTP config settings. Okay. And we will be using Nano text editor for this. Okay, now we will add those lines. I won't be using default 22 port because it's quite obvious. Since this is a test machine, still you can use it, but I prefer to change it. Okay, this was the last one. So I press Ctrl X and it is asking me if I want to save the change. I press Y and enter. That's it. These are the explanations of what we have added. So now we need to restart our Sftp. To do that, we can run sudo service sftp restart, and it didn't find it, so we will follow the screen directives again. First ctr start ssh. That has been done. Now we need to download an SFTP FTP client. We will be using Filezilla for that. And let's check if the SFTP is working. Service status. Okay, so it's all working fine. Ctrl C, enter. Okay, SSH server is running, and remember we have changed the default port 22 to 2222, so we need to allow that port on Firewall as well. And that will be TCP. And we need to restart the UEFI service, and it should be somewhere here. Yeah. And check the status. Fine. Now we can download Filezilla. That has been complete, but before we start using Filezilla, we need to do port forwarding. What we can do is, in our computer, we can still use 22 and it will be forwarded to 2222. Let's give a try on Putty. So Putty port is again 22. Let's see if it will work, and works perfect fine. Okay. Now I will continue with Filezilla. So Filezilla is downloaded and it is here. let's start Filezilla. First, we need to enter a new site here, which is our virtual machine, and it will be new site. We will call it Ubuntu, and instead of FTP we will be using Sftp. Host will be 127.0.0.1. Port will be 22. Remember, we are forwarding it to 22.22. User will be Sftp user, and the password is same. And that's it. We say connect, say password. It is trying to connect, and it is connected. Remember, we gave the permission to create and edit to Sftp user. I am creating a new file, test.txt, and if I go to Ubuntu, or I can simply list the content of file folder from here. It will be Sftp. Okay. See, we have a test.txt file here, and if we edit this test.txt file with nano, and if we write something, get out from here. Oops, we made a mistake. We have created here, so we were not in this folder. Okay, so if we change folder, and that will be safer for me. Yes, okay. Permission is denied. Right, so if we just check the content here, test, and if you go and look for file content here, it is downloaded here. Sorry, it will be open. You can see test is here. Right. That's it. This is the all Sftp setup. It was quite straightforward, I guess. From site manager, if we check it again, we choose Sftp protocol, and the host is our local host IP because we have done port forwarding on virtual machine. We don't even need to enter the port because it is default port. We enter the username and password. That's it. And on the virtual machine again, if we take a look one more time, we go to settings on network advanced, we go to port forwarding, and we are forwarding over the local 22 port to Ubuntu 2222 port. That's it. And it works all fine as long as the firewall state is enabled on Ubuntu 2. So I will take one last snapshot, and I will say Sftp is installed 2020 port, Sftp user, Sftp password, and the location is var Sftp my folder data. See you in the next videos. In the next video, I will be installing Postgresql on Ubuntu. Then I will be using this Postgresql from my PC with Visual Studio in a C# project. So what I actually aim is I want to create a IoT backend server with Ubuntu. I want to get a VPS, and I would like to store my IoT data on Ubuntu on Postgresql. To manage my server, obviously I need SFTP and SSH, and to be able to store the data I need a relational database, and which is Postgresql is free, so I choose that one. And .NET Core, it can run on Linux servers as well, so it should be working fine for me. Okay, thanks for watching. See you in the next videos.